Hey, what's happening guys? I'm ika.himee and welcome to my channel. And today we're gonna do like a paint and chat thing because there are topics that I want to discuss, and I feel like doing art in the background is something that will entertain you while I talk about them. So a little bit about the art right now, just get this out of the way. It is Kanna from Ms. Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. I'm using Sakura Koi watercolors and some Yaoi water pens that I got from Wish a long time ago. I did a review on them if you want to check that out. So that's pretty much that. The topic that I want to discuss, I guess, is like the art and depression thing going like hand in hand. And I think that it's something that a lot of people have picked up as a trend, but I don't know that they've really like formally acknowledged it as something that really goes together a lot. And I do think that a lot of it is because of mental illness not really being accepted for so long. It's really only just in the last like few years that it's been pretty widely accepted as something that can actually affect people and can be considered an illness. A little fun fact backstory about me: I do have depression and anxiety. I got it from my father's side of the family, and with the way that things are going for them, I'm going to say that it's probably only going to get worse. But for now, things are very mild and manageable. It's not a big deal. Neither of those things really keep me from functioning day to day. I don't really require any sort of medication or anything like that. For the most part, I can pretty much deal with everything very easily. Now, of course, not saying that, you should try and be like me, because I have a very mild case of this stuff at this point, so I don't need medication right now. But if you do need medication or you do need help, I recommend that you seek it, because anything that will help you is always a positive thing. For me, I don't feel like I need it, so I don't get it. But I mean, really the only thing that probably affects me so much is my anxiety. That can be a little crippling at times depending on the situation, and it's very difficult for me to leave my comfort zone because of it. But for the most part, depression is not a huge issue to me, and it's kind of just something that I've grown accustomed to. It's just kind of like you get used to not feeling happy all the time. It's just kind of like the Hulk, like where he's angry all the time, you're just kind of depressed and down all the time, and you just kind of get used to it. There's some days that are worse than others, obviously, but for the most part, it's just kind of in the background. It's like white noise, it's not really going to affect me, and I can go about my day and do things that I still enjoy. But there is a huge trend, and I think it kind of hit me more several years ago when a lot of the actors and musicians that I looked up to, they had started passing away, committing suicide, stuff like that, and it was coming out later that, they kept it very private, but they did suffer from, depression and stuff like that, and, they had some traumas in their past that, really affected them on a very deep level. And I think the one that hit me the most was probably when Robin Williams passed, because not only was he like my favorite comedian and actor, I saw very strong similarities between how he reacted to depression and how I reacted to depression. A lot of people that have depression are usually like, amongst other people, they're kind of like the more funny, witty, upbeat one that's trying to cheer up other people. Obviously this isn't every case, but a lot of times, depressed people will do their best to cheer up other people around them because they know what it feels like to feel terrible all the time. And I was always that person. I was always the one cracking jokes. I was always the one trying to cheer up my friends. I was trying not to be a downer. So I did see some similarities there, and when he went and it all came out kind of, that he had been suffering for a very long time, I think it really hurt me on a deep level because of those similarities. And I began noticing a very large trend that a lot of creative people were also suffering from depression. And it was kind of like, you don't know if the art is what is making a person depressed, or is amplifying the depression, or if the person was depressed beforehand and art's just something that they were interested in, or if they do art because of the depression. And I don't know the answer exactly, but I do think that a lot of people, they have depression and they turn towards art as a way of coping with it. You would see a lot of times there's, if you go through DeviantArt, there's lots of angsty art done by like really angsty 12 and 13-year-olds, and that's a very emotional time in a person's life, because a lot of things are like different and they're changing and they're getting used to new things, and there's always a lot of vent art. There's always a lot of emotion in the art that these people are producing, because that is the only way that they know how to express it, really, you know. And I think that everyone at some point in their life does vent art, and I think for a lot of people it ends up being something that they kind of grow out of, and they don't really focus on doing vent art anymore, and they just kind of focus on other things. And I think that maybe it's kind of one of those things that where when you get older and you start like kind of evolving and seeing more of the world, you realize that you don't really want to focus on yourself. You know, like, you don't want to focus on your depression, your anxiety. You don't want to press on the things that are bothering you. You want to escape from them. And I think that art is a good way for people to be able to escape from that. And in a lot of cases, there are a lot of people with like extreme depression where like kind of like their entire theme is vent art, but it doesn't really seem like vent art. It's just kind of just very dramatic pieces, intense, full with emotion. And I think that in a lot of cases, people that have depression do create some of the most emotional pieces, because they are able to take that feeling and portray it on a canvas, because it's something that they can directly relate to, and those pieces always end up very powerful. And I think a lot of people enjoy them, but I think that a lot of people also don't realize why it's like that. You know, they don't realize why there's so much emotion in it. And I think that art is a good way for people to help themselves, you know, and if you need to go to someone else to get help, I recommend doing that. There's nothing wrong with getting help from someone else. There are a lot of things that we cannot do on our own, and there are a lot of severe cases of depression that you really need outside help for. But I do think that art is probably the most basic way to help yourself, because art itself is kind of therapeutic. It's a way for you to release your emotions and create something out of something that tortures you. And I think, like, you know, a lot of illustrators really tap into this a lot. And me personally, you know, I don't draw as much like illustration type things where it's like just kind of like a raw emotion, like impressionistic or anything like that. I'm very much so stick to what I do because I have goals within my field that I want to accomplish. However, I think for me, my therapy is creating characters. I have always created tons of characters, and I think a lot of that came from me always feeling insecure about who I was, and I always felt down about who I was, and I wanted to be someone else, or I wanted to be able to relate to other people like me. And I think that I created a lot of characters because I needed that at the time. And at this point now, I create a lot of characters because I have a lot of stories that I want to tell. And so it's a little bit different now, but I think it's still kind of the same basic thing where there are times where I will create a character that I think I need, or I will end up creating a character that I didn't realize was a character that I needed until later. I do have certain characters that I rely on a lot for therapy, so I draw them whenever whenever I don't know what to draw, whenever I feel down, or, you know, stuff like that. But it's just kind of like a way for you to focus on something else for a while and just not worry about what's going on with you. And that's why I think that there are a lot of depressed artists, and I think probably the majority of artists do have some form of depression because, again, art's a really good coping mechanism. I know that there are a lot of artists that don't have depression, they just enjoy art, and to those people, I'm so happy for you. What's that like? But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of all I want to talk about. I know that a lot of people kind of feel different and alone, and I know that I was one of those people. When I was younger, I didn't really understand depression, or I didn't understand it as a thing that you could actually have, like as a condition. So I always felt very like isolated because the people around me didn't feel the way that I did, and I just felt very alone, and I didn't really know what to do with it. So I did spend a lot of time focusing on art because it was the only way for me to feel not alone. And I think that the more people know about this and recognize this trend, I think the easier it will be for people to accept themselves like completely, you know, and kind of realize that there are other artists that also suffer from depression. Like, they're not alone, they're not the only one, you know, and it's just kind of like, I just want people to know that they don't have to worry about their depression. Like, they don't, I mean, a lot of people end up having to take breaks from their art because of their depression, and if that is what you think will help you, then I guess that you should try that, but that's not something that would ever work for me. You know, there are times where I just didn't feel like drawing something, but I would try and force myself to draw something, and I would always end up feeling better. So I don't know that it works that way for everyone, but I think that it is a good idea, and I think that it might be something that people should try. You know, like, if you have some sort of depression, maybe try a creative medium, maybe try making music, or drawing, or writing, or, you know, even, hey, pursue acting. I don't know. I don't know your life, but I think that these are very simple things that you can try out, and you can see if any of them actually work and can help you, because I think that, you know, whatever it is that you find that will be able to help you is always a positive step. So, yeah, so I think I just wanted to talk about that and, you know, let you guys know my thoughts on it. And if you have any other thoughts, you can let me know in the comment section down below. It's always open. I love hearing from you guys. If you like this video and want to be updated every time I post a new video, you can hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to make sure that you do not miss a thing, because I post inconsistently now, so it's easy to miss them. Also, the links to my social media shop and Patreon is in the description box below for you guys. You can check all of that stuff out. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!